Alright, hey guys, remember it's TCG back in the video. In this video, I'm going to be showing you guys a Floowandereeze deck profile. And there was a new ban list recently, and Floowandereeze M-Pen was hit to 1 copy. So, it's a bit difficult because this deck definitely thrived from having 2 copies of it. But having 1, you can still make it work. It is going to hurt the consistency of the deck, and you are going to have to play smarter when using this card. Just because you're not going to be, once you lose this card, it's going to be a bit more difficult to get it back. The nice thing about it though is that there is ways of getting it back. It's just a little bit harder to do. But let's just get started here. So I still run the 2 copies of DD Crow. I still think it's a really good hand trap for the deck. It's searchable as well with Robina. You can switch it out if you want, if you don't really like that. But I like having the copies of 2 DD Crow, just so I have some hand traps to play with during my opponent's turn. But it's also something that I can shuffle out using the unexplored wins. I like using this card to just shuffle Wing Beast back into my deck and then draw cards back out. And a big target for me is DD Crow, or the extra copies of the Floowandereeze. 3 copies of Robina, of course, 3 copies of Eglin. These are just essential 3 copies that you need. I also decided to run 2 copies of Stree here, or Stry. And yeah, I think in the previous deck profile I just had 1 copy of it. I think 2 copies of it is best, just because it does increase the consistency of the deck, just being able to get more Floowandereeze monsters out here. And it also makes it possible to get 2 Floowandereeze, or 2 big monsters, 2 big wing monsters onto the board, just by having another name here in the form of Stree. Not only that, but you could also use this as a way of getting back your M-Pen. It's going to be a little tricky, but if you can use Stree here in order to banish M-Pen, then you can use Tokan in order to add a Floowandereeze monster. If this card is normal or special summon, you can target, or if this card is normal summon, you can target one of your banished Floowandereeze cards and add it to your hand, and then you can normal summon. So that's one way of getting Floowandereeze M-Pen back onto your board in case it somehow gets into the grave. That's one way of doing it, or just using Token directly in order to add it back to your hand. So it's definitely usable. It's just it's going to be more difficult, and it's not as good as just having 2 M-Pens on the board. 2 dimension shifters, so you have a card to play with during your opponent's turn. It's also very easy to banish things in your grave, especially with 2 copies of Stree, in order to make Shifter alive again. Apex Avian, of course, this is great. 1 copy of Ryza as well, and then 1 M-Pen. So the M-Pen sucks, but you know, we're still running the 1 copies of each because it's still really essential. Then we have 1 copy of Gold Sarcophagus. This card's great, just being able to search out anything in the deck. Same thing with the Pot of Duality, is just really good. We want to maximize that. Just being able to search anything, well, activate the top 3 and then choose any of them, gives you a lot of options. Same thing with the 3 copies of Pot of Extravagance and Pot of Prosperity. It's just insane consistency, just being able to search things out. That's why even though we lost Terraforming, it's still pretty good and pretty easy to search out the trap. So that's nice to see there. And yeah, 2 copies of Dark Ruler No More, just as a way of breaking boards. So you can see that I don't run a lot of hand traps. I do run 2 copies of DD Crow and 2 copies of Dimension Shifter, but this is enough where if my opponent happens to go first, I do have enough cards to interact with my opponent in the form of DD Crow and Dimension Shifter. And if I don't have these, I usually have Dark Ruler No More or Evenly Match in order to break the board. And then during my opponent's turn, I can just set up my board. And if they try to stop me, I have Called by the Grave, and I can set up a Dimensional Shifter if things get really bad. So it's really easy. You have a good amount of floodgates here as well. And I decided to add the Lightning Storm here, just as another way of breaking a board. And then Pot of Prosperity, as I covered, just increases consistency. The Floowandereeze map. This map is really good. It's just an insanely powerful field spell here, but you're still able to search it out using Floowandereeze in the Advent Adventure, so it's not too bad. You're easily able to get this out. And 2 copies of Dimensional Shifter. This card is just it's just an amazing floodgate, and it works really well with the deck, so of course you want to run that. Then the Floowandereeze and the Unexplored Winds, just being able to tribute with your opponent's cards to get a Floowandereeze monster out is really nice. And not only that, but you're able to just reveal 2 Winged Beast monsters in your hand and shuffle it back and draw 2 cards out. So that's really good, just increases the consistency of the deck overall. And then we have 2 copies of Book of Moon, because even though we have the Floowandereeze and the Advent Adventure, which basically gives us protection, it's the same role that Book of Moon had. I still like running 2 copies of Book of Moon, because not only is it a form of disruption for your opponent, but it's a great way of just having an additional way of protecting your Floowandereeze in case they try to imperm your Robina. Then you have Called by the Grave for the hand traps. Floowandereeze and the Advent Adventure, of course, this is the 3rd time I mentioned it, but this card is just really good. Just being able to search out any Floowandereeze monster or add the field spell to your deck to your hand is just really nice. And the 3rd copy is honestly worth it if you want to. I just wanted to save the UR crafting material. But if you want to use that, I think it's pretty valid to use the 3rd copy. It's just you always like seeing it, so I would definitely consider it. evenly matched. I still like using this, just being able to clear the board is just really nice. And yeah, just it's great if you're going second and you need a way of just clearing up the board. Then we have Floowandereeze in the Dreaming Town. This card can be pretty powerful if you know when to use it. Just being able to flip your opponent's cards can be pretty disruptive. And for the extra deck here, these are just cards. I've covered them before. I haven't changed it up at all. I haven't gotten into these like once. There was a time where I had the chance to go into one of these Exceed monsters, but I ended up drawing a card that just let me continue playing, so didn't end up doing that either way. But yeah, maybe it'll come up. You might be able to if you happen to have 2 level 1 monsters out, then you want to go into a rank 1, then you can do that. And if you do manage to attack with it, you can go into Downward and then the Divine Arsenal Zeus. And then these are just generic links that you can have here if you happen to go into them. But yeah, you're never really going to use your extra deck. The main thing is just going to be your main deck here. But let me know what you guys think about the deck profile and what you guys think about the ban list. I think it was kind of unfair, just the hit that Flu kind of got here. I think it was a little unnecessary, and it's going to sting for a little bit, but I'm sure we'll be able to play through it. We just have to play smarter around it. And we're close to reaching 1,000 subs, so if you guys are enjoying the videos, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Because that really helps. And yeah, see you guys next time. Thank you for watching.